Etsy limits how many times your shop can rank for a search term, which means whether you have 4 listings or if you have 400 listings, the results are going to be the exact same as Etsy caps your shop. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly where Etsy reveals this in their policy, real data from my personal Etsy shop that supports this, various other Etsy shops that are getting capped in the market today, and how knowing this rule can help you scale 10 times faster or 10 times easier than the competition, as that's exactly what we did. We made our first $1 million on Etsy with only 80 listings. We made our second $1 million on Etsy with only a couple hundred more listings. We made our third $1 million on Etsy with only a couple hundred more listings, where we only averaged about 80 to about 150 listings per product type because we knew if we went any more broad than that, Etsy would cap our shop. Real quick, I want to personally invite you to a free 3-day challenge that we're hosting this month, where I reveal the exact 3-part process that we developed that allowed us to scale every Etsy product that we launched to 6 and 7 figures without fail. Again, we developed this process and you will not find it anywhere else. So I'll put a link in the description below where you can register for free. All right, back to the video. So if we head over to Etsy's policies, there are house rules. They have an article on how search, advertisement, and recommendation ranking works, where I highly recommend giving this article a read, as it tells you everything that Etsy looks at for rank and search. But the one that I'm referring to, the one that no one is talking about, the one that allowed us to have 10 times less listings than the competition and yet build a top Etsy store in the world, was all because of this one right here called frequency capping, where it says to limit the number of times the same listing or shop, emphasis on shop, appears at the top of results for a specific user or keyword, emphasis on keyword. So what this means is Etsy is going to limit the number of times that your shop can rank for a specific keyword. So independent if you have 4 listings or 400 listings, Etsy is going to limit the amount of times that your shop, your listings can rank for that search term. So the part that's open-ended is to limit. At what point is Etsy limiting our shop for that search term? Is it after the first listing? Is it after the second listing? Is it after the 10th listing? At what point are we getting capped our shop for that specific search term? So if you know me, I had to test everything. I needed to know exactly how many listings I can launch per niche, per product type before Etsy is going to cap my shop, and we have diminishing returns for every listing after that. So we're now going to jump over to our shop, and I'm going to show you some real data at what point Etsy will cap our shop and how many listings we should be launching per niche, per product type. All right, so this is real data extracted from my personal Etsy shop, where I'm going to show you 3 different niches, 3 different product types, how many listings I launched per niche for that product type, and where the sales fell on every single listing. And when you see it in this light across these 9 different examples, it's very clear to see where Etsy caps your listings for that search term or for that niche, for that product type. Where in this first example, the niche is baby's first Christmas, the product is ornament. So that search term that we're going after is baby's first Christmas ornament. We launched a total of 27 listings for this niche product combination. And out of all 27 listings, we sold a total of 11,908 units. That's units sold, not revenue. So this is a great example because this is a large enough sample size over a long enough period to where it gives us very clean data. There isn't one order or one large order that's really skewing the numbers. It's very clear to see which listings is doing which percent of our sales. And we can see that listing L and listing Y, if we take those 2 listings together, they actually did 90% of our sales for baby's first Christmas ornament. And all the other 25 listings got capped. You can literally see they did very little sales, or the few sales that they probably actually did were maybe repeat customers from the year prior, or maybe they came to our listing, went to our shop, and then just purchased a different design. If we move over to the next example, the niche is engagement, the product is ornament. So we were going after that search term engagement ornament. We launched a total of 9 listings. Across all 9 listings, we sold 6,181 units. Same thing, listing A plus listing C did 90% of our sales. Listing A probably did 85% of our sales, but all of the other 7 listings capped. If we move over to the next example, the niche is wedding, the product is ornament. Again, we launched a total of 9 listings. Across all 9 listings, we sold a total of 8,787 units. Listing C plus listing H did 90% of our sales. All other 7 listings capped. So moving over to a different product type, in this case, the niche is pet memorial, so a different niche. The product type is our picture board, so a different product type. We launched a total of 4 listings for this one. Across those 4 listings, we sold a total of 3,851 units. Same thing, listing A plus listing C did 90% of our sales. Listing B, listing D, capped. Moving on to the next example, the niche is engagement. The product type is our picture boards. We launched a total of 6 listings. Those 6 listings did 2,578 units sold. Listing A plus listing C did 90% of our sales. All other 4 listings got capped. In this example, the niche is wedding. The product is still our picture boards. Same thing, we launched 6 listings. For those 6 listings, we did 1,693 units sold. Across all 6 listings, listing C and listing D did 90% of our sales. The other 4 listings got capped. Moving over to a completely different product type, the niche was floral, so our floral dog collar was a search term that we were going after. We launched a total of 6 listings. Across those 6 listings, we sold 7,274 units. Out of those 6 listings, listing A plus listing C, again, did 90% of our sales. The other 4 listings just got capped. Moving on to the next niche, the cheetah dog collar was a search term that we were going after. 6 listings, 1,651 units sold. In this case, it was a little bit more blended, but listing D plus listing C, 90% of our units sold. Last example right here, the niche was our Daisy dog collar, 6 listing variations, a total of 2,548 units sold. Listing A plus listing D did 90% of our units sold. And what's crazy is the numbers are the exact same, independent of the niche, independent of the product, where one of the listings will do, in this case, about 70, 80% of the total sales for that niche product combination. One more listing collectively will do about 90% of your total sales for that niche product combination. So that limit, again, Etsy limits the amount of times your shop can rank for a specific search term. I would say that limit is 2. Where there's a couple of reasons why Etsy actually does this, both for the sellers as well as the shoppers. For the shoppers, when they come to Etsy and they search for bachelorette shirt, for example, whereby limiting the amount of times a specific shop can rank on page 1 for the search term, it actually leads to a better product diversity for Etsy shoppers and for sellers by Etsy limiting the amount of times that your competition can rank on page 1 for the search term. It actually broadens the opportunity for you to get a slice of that pie. So I'm going to click into one of these listings, for example, this one. I'm going to click into this shop, where in this example, we can see that this Etsy shop launched 3 months ago. They have a total of 229 sales. They have a total of 227 listings, and they really doubled down on the Bride Squad tees. They created 154 designs for this niche product combination. So now that we know that Etsy caps the amount of times that a specific shop can rank for a specific search term, I'm really curious to see how all 154 of these listings are doing, or if 2 of these 154 listings did 90 or 80% of the sales, and if 152 of their listings are just getting capped. So I'm going to use a tool called Everbee. I'm going to click onto Product Analytics, where this tool is able to scrape their entire shop and give us an estimate for the sales velocity for their product listings. So I'm gonna come over to filter. I'm then gonna go over to the product and say that the title has to include bachelorette. I'm now gonna go over to the total sales. That way it's not an estimate, it's their total sales. And I'm gonna filter this by most sales to least sales. All right, perfect. So if we scroll down to the top listing right here, this is actually the one that was ranked on page 1 for bachelorette shirt. We can see that it has a total of 136 sales. The next best seller for bachelorette shirt has 86 sales. We have 16, 26. This is a tank top, 26, 3. And then these look like some backdrops. And then we get down to the zeros. So out of 154 listings for bachelorette shirt, the top 2 has 222 sales out of maybe the 300 total. So again, the top 2 listings is doing, in this case, about 80% of the total sales, even though the seller has 154 listings. That means that at least 145 out of the 154 have 0 sales, because Etsy is now capping those listings for the bachelorette, the niche shirt, the product type, and it will continue to be this one as the main driver and this one as kind of the secondary driver. At the same time it took her to launch those 152, she could have branched into an entirely new product. She could have launched maybe 20 more different niches, but instead all of these are going to have zero sales, and they will continue to have zero sales because they're being capped by Etsy. So I'm going to jump into just another shop, another example, another niche to see again, did they double down in a specific niche, and are they being capped beyond one or two of their listings? All right, so heading back over to page 1 for Bachelorette shirt, let's go ahead and click into this one right here. All right, so this seller has been selling on Etsy for a year. They have 4.4 thousand sales. They have 196 listings total, where out of those 196 listings, it looks like 106 of those are for the Bachelorette niche. So I'm just gonna click onto this really quick, and it looks like these are all for apparel. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and click onto Everbee, click onto Product Analytics, go over to Filter. For the product title, the title needs to include Bachelorette. And then go over to Total Sales and organize it by most to least. All right, so if we scroll down, the top listing right here has 118 total sales. The next best one has 21 total sales. Then we have some 10s and then 0. So it looks like the top 2 listings has a total of 139 sales out of 189 sales, about 75%. Whereas I look at these last 2 examples where the shops really double down on a specific niche, they both have over 100 listings for Bachelorette shirt. It looks like their top 2 listings do about 70 to 75% of their total sales, versus for us, we kind of optimize around 4 to 6 listings per niche per product type. And our top 2 listings would do about 90% of our sales. So I think that's just because we have less listings for that spread. But again, 2 listings do a bulk of the sales, where again, for this seller, a total of 7 listings sold, 99 out of 106 listings have 0. Again, because Etsy is capping those listings, and these top 2 right here will continue to do about 70 to 75% of the sales for these search terms. So all of that to show you that less is more. Less listings do sell better than more listings on Etsy. It doesn't matter if you have 4 listings or 400 listings for the same product niche combination. They're going to sell the exact same, because Etsy is going to cap your shop because it limits the amount of times that your shop can rank for those search terms on Etsy. And this is how you're able to rank faster and easier than the competition, is because you only need to launch 4 to 6 listings per niche per product type before you're moving on to the next niche, where the competition might be doubling down, launching 100, 200, 300 designs for that same niche, but you've already moved on to 15, 20 other niches. Again, you're not being capped, you're not being limited, and there's not diminishing returns for your efforts. Well, that's gonna be it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.